This is Crowdfunding Countdown, where I filter through all the Planet Bimbo billionaire brawls. The Big Eye Chungus, or I guess Chungai would be the plural, the Win-Win Island relaunches that once again aren't going to fund because humanity as a species is really more into the win-lose. This is where we take a look at all the board game campaigns finishing up this week. Thank you for being here. My name's Chris George, and honestly, two of those were some of my favorites this week. Planet Bimbo, Billionaire Brawl, is actually a little journaling thing that you can draw your own clothes and then assign stats to them. So you feel good about yourself in the world, which honestly I could probably use. And then Big Eye Chungus sent me down a rabbit hole of finding out what exactly a chungus is, or a big chungus is, and I can't believe that I hadn't heard of that little bit of internet culture before. That's a chungus, and he's got a great song accompanying him, which I can't put on the channel or else I'll get flagged for copyright and they'll take all of my revenue for a 2-second clip, but it is something that I do want to write a rap to now. Big chungus, big chungus, big chungus. Everybody gonna get the best bunny with a honey buddy body gonna body you my business. Anyway, I don't have time for that. I don't even have time to play games because I'm too busy researching all of them for you. And I love it. So yeah, honestly, two great tangents that I just wanted to get out of the way. But before we get into the games of the week, I have, according to my notes, a Patron shout out, which I'm just gonna trust past Chris on this one and say, ugh, Dr. T, Brian, thanks for joining the... Oh, it was new. It was new patron shout out. Damn it. Thanks, Dr. T and Brian, for supporting the channel, and thank you to all of my patrons for your consistent support, and really just having somebody to talk to over on Discord so I'm not just in that private slippery gym Pablo bingo mechanic.
Oh, freaks you
yeah, that's a
right
new
out.
character. Chat. Talking to myself in various accounts, which it just gets confusing. So I just appreciate you all being here and continually supporting the channel. It is thanks to your support that I'm able to take the time, or that I drive myself into the ground to take the time to make sure I do all the research needed so that you don't have to and can just relax and enjoy me shouting at you not to purchase your new favorite game. So that aside, let's get into the week. And we actually do have a very positive week. There are a lot of fun games that are probably too overpriced for what they are, but they're still fun to talk about. A couple of the ones that we're skipping, one is the card game Min, where you just get to sit in silence with your friends holding a card for 60 seconds and then say, I win, I min. Min, it's a minute. You gotta wait a minute. The Mind did it better. And then another one called Gigi le jeu qui rit, which I really had high hopes for, but it's just a game about all the benefits of laughter, which I am not interested in whatsoever. And if you even laugh once, well, I've done my job wrong. Ah, damn it! No, I did it again! I feel so healed right now. So enough of the tangents, enough of all that garbage. Let's get into the games of the week. And the first one is called Bloodstones, which is over on GameFound, and it is Martin Wallace's big middle finger to Canadians. Or it used to be. They were going to have Canadians. It wasn't going to be Canadian-friendly shipping, and then, you know, we rioted. We set our beaver tails on fire. Not the actual animal, the snack, the sweet treat. It's like a funnel cake, an elephant ear. And we marched towards Martin Wallace's house and we said, please let us pay the same price as everyone else. And they said, yes, of course, but your shipping will be $40. And we'll say, yeah, we take it. We take it. We could buy 7 of the 11 games on the best value games of all time list that I put out recently, but no, we'll take it. But this is a sort of Euro war game hybrid, it's kind of pitching itself as, where you take on the role of 4 different factions: the Necromancers, the Dragon Riders, the Hill Folk with their giants, and the ever-terrifying Horse Lords, which they lead with in the video. They're like, oh, get ready for some excitement. We got Horse Lords for you. What in the BoJack Horseman fan fictionary is this? You're gonna lead with Horse Lords? I mean, listen, the only people who I know who want to be Horse Lords over Dragon Riders are the people who are no longer allowed to come to my game nights because they've been arrested for public indecency. Horse Lords. I also really love that the video on the main page, the video that they want you to watch first off, is basically just Hype 101. They're like, yeah, you get 4 factions, but with the GameFound, you get 2 more and 3 more maps. Come on, purchase it now. And to be fair, of course, they're hiding the best factions in these stretch gold tiers. You get the unfortunately named horse bottoms, which are just, you know, the back half of the horses to complement the horse lords. And then my favorite faction, kids in a trench coat. Anyway, it's kind of a standard small world-esque game. Really. With some additional fun moving parts, but it's too expensive for what it is. Although what it is does seem fun. You're going to draw 6 tiles out of a bag. Each tile will have a cost of other tiles that you have to pay to put it on the board. So this might cost you 2 tiles. And then each tile also has a pip value, and those pips can be used to build additional castles or move your troops. And so everything costs these tiles that you are going to have to manage. It's hand tile management, so to speak. And then once you've gone through your entire bag, you shuffle up all your discarded tiles, pull them out again, and when you go through 2 to 3 shuffles, depending on the player count, you're done. But only you're done, because then everybody else gets to keep playing because they managed their tiles more effectively and took less turns than you. And so everybody gets to finish their 2 shuffles. You don't get to keep playing if you're done. And this poses an interesting puzzle and an interesting question. Do I go quickly? Do I use my actions as efficiently as possible and then monopolize on the points? Probably. Or do I hold back the tiles until everybody else is done and then just, you know, hopefully not be able to just walk my way to victory? I like that everything costs the tiles. I really like that in the games, kind of like Race for the Galaxy, where everything costs you things in your hand. Everything is dual purpose, and so it makes the decisions a little bit more tense. But at $135 Canadian plus $40 shipping, that is $175 for a game that you could probably scratch that itch just by playing Small World and then Race for the Galaxy. You would expect at this price point for it to be a lot more produced, but they can't be minis, they have to be tiles because you're drawing them from a bag. So the cost versus what you actually get doesn't seem worth it to me, but it does seem fun. It's interesting. I mean, it's by Martin Wallace, and he's made a crap load of games that are all pretty good. Anyway, if you're interested in that one, that finishes at August 17th. That's Wednesday at 8 p.m. Now, next up, we have a game that emulates my YouTube strategy, and that is called One and Done. No evergreen content here. Thank you to my patrons for your continued support. But this game is also just like a party game that you would likely find at Walmart or Target. And actually, their video is saying that their first game you can be found at those sort of big box stores. And so this is just a bunch of cards with words on them that unfortunately, or fortunately, honestly fortunately, is not a funny card game. The cards will be double-sided, as most cards are. And on one side there will be a word and a blank, and on the other side it'll tell you what's in that blank, and you have one chance, one and done, one word to give to your team to get them to guess what the blank is. So the example they gave is North blank. Unfortunately, the hidden word isn't strong and free, Canadian national anthem joke. It's not even a joke, it's just words. There are no jokes here. No jokes here, just words. That's the new catchphrase for Room and Board. But if the clue was Santa, then you would probably say North slavery, North Pole. The elves really need to unionize at this point. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so North Pole. And there are also cards that you can play which force the opponent to do funny things, like they must break dance the whole time while delivering their clues, and if they stop, then their turn's over. You can steal a person from the other team and put them on your team. And this seems fine. This seems fun-ish, but it also seems like a one-and-done style game, because when you're done, when you know all the cards, you're probably not going to return to it again. I feel like this is a game that would be a lot more suited to an app version like Heads Up at $21 US with $8 shipping, and it only ships to the US, so if you're anywhere else, you can't get it. I know you were excited. I'm sorry for not mentioning that up front. Just feels like kind of a one and done thing, so you'll have to decide if that's something that interests you. And if it is, that finishes August 18th at 8:02 a.m. Next, we have a game called PaleoVet, which asks the question, what happens after Jurassic Park? And the answer is not Jurassic World fallen Bryce Dallas Howard because of her high heels. No, it's PaleoVet, which is about all the dinosaurs getting little sicky little colds that you have to cure. They're not used to the numerous diseases that are pervading around all of humanity. And so they need a vet, you, to cure them. Yes, you're the PaleoVet. It doesn't matter that you haven't had any training whatsoever. Because they're dinosaurs. They're not going to know the difference. Plus, when they wake up midway through your orange juice infusions and bedtime stories, because obviously that's the only way you know how to treat a cold, well, then we also need some red-shirted PaleoVets to, well, to be there to calm them down. Pay no attention to the red shirt. It's a standard PaleoVet uniform. But anyway, you're bringing dinosaurs to your hospital where they've been tranquilized, and they will stay asleep for a certain amount of time, and you must take that amount of time to cure them. And you're going to do that by rolling these 4 basic dice and trying to match the symbols on the dice with the dinosaurs. So you got to kind of do it in one go. You can also get upgrade cards if you have double symbols, but you're not using them on the dinosaurs. And you can also get additional dice and grow your additional dice pool. And this growing your additional dice pool was something that made me pretty excited, but you only get to add a maximum of 3 specialty dice to your dice pool as the game progresses, which isn't bad. You're almost doubling your dice, to be fair, but I was hoping there wouldn't be a cap on that, because I think the idea of growing your dice pool more and more versus treating the dinosaurs would be a fun push and pull. And then the main thing that really makes me pause about this game, because I was excited about this game, I thought, oh, that's a fun little idea. You got these big dinosaur cards, you can get these upgrades, but in the rulebook, it says you're only rolling the dice once, and I thought this would be a prime game for the re-rolling and locking mechanic that you find in Yahtzee or King of Tokyo, which if you tuned into my board game mechanics ranked series, well, you'll have this vernacular at your lip tips. It's like fingertips, but for your mouth. Mouth tips, the tip of your tongue. But the re-rolling mechanic is not in the rules. It just says you roll your dice, and then you have to deal with what you have rolled. And it just lessens my enthusiasm for this game pretty significantly, especially because it's only 4 dice that you're rolling at the beginning, and you have these dinosaurs who take 3 symbols potentially. So if you're not getting the chance to re-roll, it feels pretty luck heavy and is a bit disappointing. I mean, you could probably house rule it, so there you go. It does have a decent price point. It's $39 US or 50 bucks Canadian for the base game, and then $59 US or $74 Canadian for the deluxe version, which I don't think is needed whatsoever. You just get better DNA tokens and you get an actual player board instead of just arranging the cards on your own self. But even at that base game, after shipping to me to get to Canada, it still makes it in that sort of $70 Canadian range, and I'm not hugely interested at that price point. But if you're interested, check it out. That finishes August 18th at 8:59 a.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Manic Mages, which has a really nice video, tells you everything you need to play about the game, and usually, I mean, videos that tell me everything I need to play about the game aren't super interesting to me because there is a lower level of strategy or decision making, and that kind of happens with this one, but I think it's a phenomenal video. This is a flip to explore dungeon crawler, and you're gonna have a little person running around trying to get loot and complete objectives. They reference Betrayal at House on the Hill, and I really think that's a great reference point. They also reference Munchkin, and I think that's also a great reference point. So it's a combo of the two. You're going to explore these different levels, you're going to run into monsters, you're going to fight those monsters with spells in your hand and get cards, and then you're going to collect these relics, but sometimes the relics will be negative effect relics, and so you're going to try to get next to another dungeon person and just throw them at them and run away down the hall so that they're penalized for the remainder of the game. Hence the take that Munchkin element. It also reminds me a bit of Heroes of Barvaria, or whatever the drinking dungeon crawl game was called, except this one just doesn't have the drinking as health points. So it's a total of $33 US, and emphasizes once again that sticker tiers and t-shirt tiers are dumb as they have 0 backers currently. What? Nobody wants a t-shirt for a game that they don't know if they enjoy yet? No, they don't. I say this disparagingly also as somebody who loves seeing standee versions and also recognizing that nobody wants those either. I like seeing them personally, but like honestly from a publisher standpoint, you shouldn't even waste your time. Because mini fever is still a larger epidemic and the largest pandemic to hit the world in the last 5 to 70 years. Anyway, if you're interested in that one, that finishes August 18th at 12 p.m. noon. Next up, we have Dodos riding Dinos. And this is one that I was excited to look into because, well, it's called Dodos riding Dinos. I don't understand how I can be more clear about that. And they say this is a racing game that is based on the Kart style video game system. I guess they didn't want to say Mario Kart because then Nintendo would be like, ha! You said our name? Everything you own is ours now. Which is fair. So it's definitely not Mario Kart, and the banana peels that you see being thrown around at other people, that's just because it's scientifically proven to be the Dodos' only food source. Partly why they went extinct. Because bananas are gross. That's the reason. It's their only food source, but they hated them, rightfully so. And that's the real reason, you've heard it here first, why Dodos, and honestly Dinos, both went extinct. The meteor just happened around the time, but they were all starving because they were just sick of the bananas. Anyway, it's a pretty simple game. You're going to simultaneously choose a card. The cards are either blue or red. Blue is guaranteed to happen. Red is an aggressive maneuver, and if anybody else played a red card, you don't get to do anything on that turn. And so the cards are basically used to propel you forward. They always have like a speed stat, and then they have a different effect where you get to Thunderbolt and Lightning, very, very frightening everybody in front of you, or Thunderbolt and Electric Attack until you get ground out by a Marowak. You get to hurt the other players and wound them, and when you get wounded you have to discard cards. And when you're out of cards, you draw new cards, but you have to move back as a setback. You stop your car and pick up all the cards that you've dropped on the racing track. And so this is actually for the standalone expansion. And so the standalone expansion is $39 US, or 50 bucks Canadian. The original version is $59 US, and I was hoping that there would be more dexterity elements in the expansion, and there is. There's like a little bird that you can, flip at people, but they still have the standard 5 things that you throw at cars to get them to stop, like a meteor that you drop, or the banana peel, or the log that you just kind of roll and you try to hit people with, and not yourself. And so if you're looking for additional dexterity elements, probably not too many in the expansion, but if you're looking for additional abilities and cards and new characters, because you get 7 more characters, the original came with 12, then that's something to check out. I mean, I'm sure if you like the original, you've already, backed the expansion, or maybe you don't. Maybe you haven't, because it feels like 12 characters, there's probably enough stuff. Honestly, if I were going in for it now, I would just get this standalone expansion, because you get the additional ability cards and the standard attacks. And sure, you have 7 characters versus 12, but that sort of variability is not really going to matter. So for me, after shipping, because it's $12 to $19 in shipping, it still would cost me like 75 bucks to get the expansion, the standalone, to my door. And that's a bit too much for me for a dexterity game. Dexterity games don't have too much shelf life for me personally, but this one does seem like probably a great time. So if you're interested in that, that also finishes Wednesday the 18th at 3 p.m. Now, next up, moving right along, we have a game called Utopia. And this one actually isn't funding. And I'm breaking my rule of not talking about things that aren't funding in this last week, because it's close enough. And I think the game looks fun. I think it's likely too expensive, let me preface, but I think the game and the concepts behind it look fairly enjoyable. And honestly, it's 50-50 whether it will make up that gap or not. And I think that will have to do with the price point versus the actual components and stuff that you're getting from it. But I think the basics of it seem neat. And the premise of the game is for 1 to 4 players. You are Time Lords, but also megalomaniacs. That's their tagline. And it's up to you to complete 3 butterfly effect events and change the time stream so that it changes in your favor. The first person to complete 3 butterfly effects wins the game and becomes the Supreme Time Lord and ruins history for everyone. But there's a few things that I like about this. When you complete a butterfly effect, you get to choose which way history falls. Basically, you get to choose a good or an evil version, sort of thing. And a new space will appear on the board, this time stream, because of the effects of what you've done. I like that as a concept. Basically, the decision is just, should this resource be available or this resource be available? So it's not like a mind-blowing thing, but thematically, I really like those changes. As the game progresses, you're going to be building up your crew of historical people as well, and you're taking them, you're capturing them from their time stream, and you're forcing them to work on your chrono ships and sending them out. And so you'll have each one of them pilot a different chrono ship, which will act as an additional worker. It feels like the strategy here will just be get the first 3 people that are out there so you have more workers and can do more stuff and get more tokens, because basically you're collecting resources and you use those resources to complete the butterfly effects, right? It's a standard worker placement, get some stuff, complete contract style of game, but I really like the theme of it, and I also really like the art style as well. Now, as you continue along your quest to Ashton Kutcher, the time stream, and by that I don't mean the butterfly effect, where the sadder ending is that he chooses to let Amy Smart never meet him, even though she's the love of his life, because she would have a better life without him, which is a plot line I can relate to. No, as you continue your quest to punk the time stream. That's the new theme for this game. You can also assassinate other characters. And I bring this up just so you know that there's a little bit of take that elements. Basically, that character will go into limbo, and then you as a Time Lord are like, no, I'm also the Master of Death, and I can pay 1 knowledge token and get you back on my crew. But I know some people don't like that direct interaction, and having just talked about take that recently, it's at the forefront of my mind, so I wanted to bring it up as a potential element because it seems decently significant. And it is good you can just keep bringing them back until they're murdered over and over again. Now, the price for this game, it's £60 plus an additional £20 shipping to Canada, so that puts it at that 125 Canadian bar for a game that probably plays like a fun spin-off of Lords of Waterdeep, with some additional character abilities. I like the character abilities for this one. I like that every person you get has a little bit of a specialty, and I like that they have a huge diversity in their cast as well, to which someone in their game found comments, which makes me explicably angry, because I'm not an idiot, said, there's too much diversity in this game. I wonder if Chris Scorpio is a white man. But that, to me, is a pretty good review of the game. And if pathetic little weasel Chris Scorpio, who dishonors the Chris name to such an extent, I wouldn't even be this angry if your name wasn't Chris. I can tolerate sexism and racism as long as it doesn't come from a Chris. You can tolerate racism? So if pathetic little weasel Chris Scorpio is feeling sad about having to look at a picture of a strong woman Viking and wants to tout historical accuracy as a justification for his sexism in a game about changing the time stream and the ramifications of the little things that change as you change history, that his whiny, pathetic little scum bucket of a mind can't conceptualize because there's a strong woman in power, well, you know what? I think your game's doing pretty okay things. So it's a good thing I'm an Aquarius, because f*** you, Chris Scorpio, you single-celled troglodyte. You vomit stain on the back of a declaration of an ever-dwindling patriarchy. You dumb human Q-tip on the underside of a PaleoVet carnivore about to wake up from his nap. I'm back in this twice. Well, okay, probably not because I'm poor, but still, the sentiment is there. Anyway, check this one out. It does look fun. I hope if it doesn't cross the finish line, they're able to reevaluate, maybe get things at a cheaper rate, and see what happens. But it finishes Thursday, August 19th at 1 p.m. Now, next up, we have Dead Reckoning, and actually a expansion for Dead Reckoning, the Letters of Marque expansion. M-A-R-Q-U-E, Marque, which is different from the letters from this Marque, who's just constantly asking you about your relationship status. And to you, I say, I do not give YouTube permission to broadcast my personal information. How did you get on this channel? This was supposed to be private. Now, Dead Reckoning is a pirate exploration adventure, and before looking into it, I was under the impression that it had a lot more to do with the combat system, but really it's more about their card crafting system and exploration. You're going to try to be the best pirate in the land, and you can do that through completing a number of different objectives. And when someone completes 4 objectives, the game is over. And so card crafting is a mechanic that I've always been a little bit afraid of, honestly. And it makes no sense, but I just feel like it just feels really fiddly to me. That you're always going to have to be re-sleeving your cards with new things and unpacking and repacking and not being able to grab the sleeves because they're going to slide all over the place. And this is a silly reason to not be interested in a card crafting mechanic, which it captures that enjoyment of a legacy game, of adding the stickers to your cards and seeing your characters grow and blossom without it needing to be a legacy game. And looking more into Dead Reckoning, I am surprised and a little excited on how much it reminds me of Seafall. There are obvious differences, but the ability to choose your path as to which objectives you are going to complete feels nice. You're going to be constantly exploring these different islands and seeing what you can find. You can be establishing bases on them. You can play more of like a merchant, gathering goods, or you can go full-on pirate mode, and you can actually turn your ship into pirate mode so that if anybody stops in your space, you're going to fight them. That's normally what pirates do. They just sit and they wait. Well, actually, probably. Pirates were garbage. They sit and they wait and they attack their prey. And so the mechanic of battle is the one that I actually associated most often with Dead Reckoning, because it's the thing that you see in their video over and over of you dropping the cubes into this ship cube tower, basically, and wherever they land, that's the thing that happens in battle. and you get more cubes depending on your firepower. And this is something that has never really drawn me in, but it draws me in more than a lot of other cube tower games. This is what I wanted Dark Tower's cube tower to be, to actually determine where it landed, not just the quadrant that it ended up in. And so I think there's room for some fun things that happen, as long as all the cubes don't end up at the very last space, because just, you know, you threw them too hard, and then that would make it really unsatisfying. So I'm intrigued to get the Letters of Marque expansion, which adds in new elements. I mean, you don't need to know about it, honestly. If you don't have Dead Reckoning, you shouldn't go all in. You should just get the base game if you're interested, and see if it's something you're really interested in, and you like it enough to then spend triple the amount to get everything Dead Reckoning, which you likely won't need to do because you're a Kickstarter addict and you have too many games and not enough space already. And more importantly, not enough time for this base game to get stale. Yeah, I'm talking to you. But the base game itself is on for $79 US, $101 Canadian, and the shipping's actually fairly reasonable here, 14 to 16 bucks, which is, you know, what you would expect to pay. I want my shipping to be $0, but generally I'm okay with this as a range. It feels pretty nice. So for me, for the game, it's $121 Canadian total. And I don't need it that much. I think I would like to get back and finish my game of Seafall that I haven't yet finished because it got put on hold because of pandemic, which we were really enjoying. I like Seafall. I think it's fun. I talk about that a lot because I know it's been panned by many, many people, and I actually enjoy it. So that's probably going to help me slow my roll a bit on this one, but you know what? It seems solid. And this one has gotten fairly decent reviews. Looks like a decently fun swashbuckling adventure. So yeah, not a horrible choice. Anyway, if you're interested in that, it finishes Friday, August 19th at 8 p.m. Now, next up we have a game called Savage, a game of survival. And problematic name aside, this is just a ripoff of Dead of Winter, but a ripoff of just like a small part of Dead of Winter, where you're going to contribute a number of cards to a common task, and there's going to be a variety of cards that you have and a variety of different cards that you can contribute, and then you hope that you've chosen the right group of people to contribute cards to that task so that the task succeeds and it doesn't fail. So it's a combo of Dead of Winter, the Resistance, but that's it. But to get to my door, it's $35 US, $45 Canadian, plus $10 to $22 in shipping. So to get to my door, it's $75 Canadian. And for that price, like, just go get Dead of Winter and the Resistance. You can likely get both for the same price, and they will probably provide you with a much more enjoyable experience. And then you don't have to have a game on your shelf with the word Savage on it, acting as a trigger for all of your indigenous friends that you're going to make and invite over for game night, whose ancestors were referred to as savages before we stole all their land. This is why Tamashii is Tamashii and not Gaijin anymore. Because why would you even give that as a possibility for people to, you know, not have a good time? Just call it Traitors, a game of survival, which honestly conveys the point a lot better than, you know, Savage does. I get it. I recently find out about things that are potentially triggering to people all the time, and you know what I do? I don't say, no, I want to use that word. No, I say, oh, okay, cool. I'll, you know, try to phase it out and, you know, watch myself. It's not a big deal. But it can be to some people. Anyway, that one finishes Monday, August 22nd at 2:59 a.m. Now, next up, we have the Foundations of Rome, the second printing of this big, beautiful box of plastic buildings that can also be sun-dropped for the low, low price of taking up the space on your shelf where 4 games could exist. You know the one Calyx box challenge? Yep, it's Foundations of Rome. Well, that's a quick video. Anyway, this has been well reviewed and is fairly well regarded, so it is getting a second printing. And their video here is fantastic. It gets you hyped. It shows you the box. It makes you realize that that ginormous box is actually essential for the experience of the game because it's got all the trays. Look how slick it is that when you pull out those player aids, you can set up the game in seconds. Just imagine not having those trays and having everything in bags that you'd have to pass out to a player and they'd have to, you know, pull out and put beside them. Just imagine this game with cardboard tiles instead so that it can actually fit on a normal person's shelf and not need a custom $60 carrying case. No, this is the optimal way to get it. This is how you play board games nowadays. I couldn't imagine a horrible world where we do not have access to those vacuum-sealed trays. Nothing that horrible has ever happened to anyone ever. And this is the darkest timeline. Anyway, the premise of the game is actually really simple. You'll be purchasing deeds. These spaces on the board will come up. A4, B2, C7, and you will purchase which of those deeds you're going to lay your little marker to claim that area of Rome. You're going to say, hey Rome, I'm ready to build something here. Give me the land. And they'll say, okay, yep, you can have the land. And so that's what you have to spend money on. You don't actually have to spend money on building the buildings, because don't worry, they say, Romulus will take care of the building supplies and the money it costs to build it. Yeah, so it's slaves. Romulus will absolutely handle all the gladiatorial combat as well. It's definitely slaves. To raise money for your buildings. Oh yeah, still slaves. But what is cool is that as you build your buildings, you're also able to deconstruct these buildings and reconstruct them as you shape Rome in your image. But the basics of the game is just buy the spots on the board you need and build things on those spots. That's it. Your buildings will give you victory points and your buildings will give you income. But it's very similar to, honestly, Chinatown or Acquire, in that you have these grids with specific numbers associated with them and you're vying for control over those spots. Now there's a module in it, the trading module, which I wouldn't see how you would play the game without the trading module. But those of you who have played the game will have to let me know down below if you incorporate trading or not. And then there's also the stealing module, which if your group is not into trading, but you still want the trading to happen, but nobody can ever agree on a deal, you just need to surround them with your own stuff, and then you can just be like, listen, we're building there, we need it, we got you surrounded, we're taking it. Which I think is actually a funny module. However, the reprint of this game, there's an expansion that you can get for $40 US, or you can get the game, the base game, for $200 US, or throw in the expansion, which honestly at this point, why wouldn't you, for $230 US. Plus shipping, which is $35 to $45. So that works out to $275 US or $350 Canadian for a polyomino game. That is just a rude price point. And I get why it's a price point. You look at the box, look at the size of the box, you look at the cost of the plastic, sure. But it's just rude at that price point for the actual depth of what you get. Or maybe not. Maybe I am corrupted by the mini war game, longer game genre, and there's no reason why. If you spend $400 on one of those big box come on games, you shouldn't spend $400, I've been rounding up, on this giant accessible game. But I just think it's just offensive to me how much it costs when it could have been done for so much cheaper, and you would lose, I don't know, maybe 10% of the actual experience. That's just for me, right? I again don't have that disease that is running rampant across the nation of when you touch anything other than plastic, it burns your hand. So like I understand, like I'm speaking from a place of privilege in that regards. And I don't mean to make light of those afflicted with hand cardboard combustionitis. I really feel for you, and I'll be donating the $7 in ad revenue this video gets to that cause. But I just think it's offensive that this is even in the Dice Tower Essentials lineup. In what world is a $350 Canadian game essential? But hey, that's included in the price, so I changed my mind. That costs that much for every game anyway, so go for it. And hey, I mean, honestly, I really am a fan of Arcane Wonders. I've been a fan of Arcane Wonders ever since they were producing Sheriff of Nottingham, and my bags broke immediately after like the second or third time I played it, and we were being very gentle. And they sent me a whole new cohort of bags for free on their dime in the mail, along with some promo cards. That is what good customer service can get you. A lot of goodwill from me towards that company because of that moment. But something like Chinatown or Acquire, I think, can give you a similar experience of battling over territory for a much cheaper price point. I think gameplay-wise, this might be an elevation to those two experiences, but not by the ratio of cost. Even if I do like all the expansions and modules included, you know where I stand. It's too bad, because this is like a cardboard version. No, you know what? I think it would be not as much of a hit. I really do think it would be not as much of a hit if this was a cardboard version, because it would be around that, $50, $60 price point, and it wouldn't have the table presence, and it wouldn't have this now allure of this giant box and this presence on your shelf and this sort of ostentatious presentation that it's given and this large scale production, and it might just be a good game that people would go, oh yeah, it's good, but not feel this intense desire to purchase, as I feel like it exists because of the elevated price point, which is a real shame and a real weird thing to think about. And if you think about that from a gameplay perspective, would it be as good at a smaller production cost, or would you be interested in it as much? That's a good question to ask. Anyway, if you're interested in that one, that finishes August 22nd at 8 p.m. And finally, our last game of the week is a game called Atma, which is a role-playing card game that says it plays in just 2 hours. That's it. You don't need to know anything about going into it. You don't need to prepare as a dungeon master. You just need the cards. And the basic structure of it is that there'll be a number of stages, and each stage will have 51 cards, and then every character will have their own set of 8 cards. And in those 8 cards, they have a couple of moves that they can do, and as the game progresses, characters will get tokens, and you can use those tokens to activate your powers, and you roll dice and see if they're successful or not. Very standard role-playing fare. But I love this pitch because it's really marketing itself as being friendly towards people who are not able or willing to put in the time needed to be a good DM, or who don't have experience with being the DM, because all of the flavor text is sort of on the card, so it gives you that breakdown. You can just say, oh, this is the thing. You can read it out, and then you can, workshop what are you going to do, what happens, and the DM has some guidelines on the cards as well. So it's a good pitch. I worry, in my experience, and I only have experience with Zach being like the best dungeon master around, the game is really run by the preparation of the dungeon master and the ability of the dungeon master to handle and to direct and narrate and craft the scenario and respond to what people are doing, and to have all the knowledge in his head. I asked Zach kind of how he prepares for a session, and he was saying, well, there'll be a number of different branching pathways that you all can take, and so I know where each of those decision points will really lead you, and then I also respond based upon what you do. And I think this will achieve, potentially that RPG nature, and would probably be a good start if you're looking to get into DMing, but I also don't think it's the only thing that would be a good start if you're looking into it. But if you've been interested in that, this doesn't seem like a horrible price point. It's $40 US, $52 Canadian, and with that, you're basically probably getting about 4 sessions, because you're going to have these 4 stages in Act 2. You can also get Act 1. They've done this before. That makes me feel a little bit better about talking about it, and hopeful that they're going to do a good job, because they've done it before and people are returning, or just jumping on board now. So this one seems cool. I like the concept. I like it making RPGs accessible and in this one-shot scenario that people can enjoy, rather than needing to stretch out a whole campaign. If you just want to dip your toes into the RPG genre, this might be one to check out. It's $12 shipping to the US. It's $22 shipping to Canada. So that's $62 US. It's like $80, which honestly, at that point, you just should get the PDF of Avatar RPG and learn the rules anyway, because that's going to be a friggin' awesome world. And I think that was like $25 for everything. I don't know if that's still available, but that's what it was back when they did their bajillion dollar Kickstarter. But if you're interested in that one, that finishes up next Tuesday, August 23rd at 8 p.m. And that's it. That's it for the week. Honestly, a decently solid week. I liked learning about these games. I like talking about these games. Even the flops weren't necessarily that much of a flop. So every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. And the pick for me is the one that I am personally the most interested in playing. That's my criteria. And then the pick for you is the one that I think you should get, so that I can come over and play it and not have to spend the money on it. Which, now that I say that as a criteria, I don't want to make the pick for you Foundations of Rome. We'll deal with that when we get to there. The pick for me is going to be Dead Reckoning. Pick for me will be Dead Reckoning. I'm pleasantly surprised by what I have seen in the rulebook and the promises that it is offering. But it's mostly the comparisons that I see to Seafall that are actually attracting me to this game. And it really kind of blew my mind of thinking of card crafting as this mid-legacy style game, or taking legacy elements and adding it into an existing game that you don't have to have a huge campaign to do, which with my current limited time is a really huge draw. So yeah, Dead Reckoning seems fun, like a fun swashbuckling adventure. I know we were talking about it a bit over in the Discord, and the 79 didn't feel that unreasonable as well, especially for something that has had a decent reception. And it's also cool to note in Dead Reckoning, and I forgot to bring this up when I was talking about it, that the returning backers, or the people who are just getting the expansion, it's something like 2,600 people, and people who are getting the base game now and just jumping on board is something along the lines of 600 and 700. So when you have that many people returning and wanting to get more to a system, that's always something that I am looking for. Although, to be fair, I brought this up with Utopia and was thinking, wow, they really want the expansion. And then, you know, people in the Discord were like, oh yeah, I'm all in on the expansion content. Haven't even opened the game, but I thought, oh yeah, that's why you're at room and board therapy. That's why you've made it in the group. But yeah, Dead Reckoning, it seems fun. Seems like this lighthearted pirate romp. This one will be tough. Probably won't see it in retail that much, which is where I would kind of like to get it, or I'll look for it in the secondhand market. Not really that interested in spending $125 on it, but yeah, mechanically and like honestly thematically, it's more thematics than the actual mechanics that are pulling me in. And my pick for me is Seafall. No, my pick for you is Seafall. Yeah, go get Seafall. You can get it at a bring and buy. It was at the breakout bring and buy for friggin' $20 unopened, or one thing done. If you were thinking about Dead Reckoning, honestly, really contemplate Seafall, because I see a lot of parallels between the two. Anyway, the real pick for you, it can't be Foundations of Rome. I can't justify even recommending that as a pick, even though I think mechanically it's going to be fairly sound. My pick for you, honestly, is Acquire or Chinatown. Pick up one of those games instead. I bet it'll give you 80% of the experience that Glory for Rome, Foundations for Rome, the Rome game, as people have referred to it as. I was like, oh, you mean Rome by Ryan Lockett? They're like, nah, the Rome game. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, my pick for you is Acquire or Chinatown. If Foundations of Rome interests you, and interests you on a mechanical level and not just a ooh shiny level, those are the two things that I would recommend in place of that. And speaking of Acquire, this is my reminder that the tickets for the World Series of Board Gaming, which you may know or you may not know, I'm involved in. I'm working for them as a live streaming producer, director, wrangling the commentary team, pushing my way into every aspect of the tournament organization. If you are interested in that, the tickets are done September 1st. This was my pitch in the video I did about it, just announcing my involvement in it. If you're close to Vegas and you have 3 friends who would be interested in like a convention, Dice Tower West sort of style, just you want to play open games, and then you're interested in participating and you think you might have a chance at winning $25,000, then the stay and play package, which is $900, which covers 4 night stays at a hotel in Vegas. Even Cheapy Me is like, that's a good price for a hotel, because hotels are expensive. If that's how you can access this, I feel like it's going to be a good event. They're giving away lots of stuff. They're going to give away over $40,000. They're going to give away a board gaming table. They're going to raffle that off you just have to enter to win it. They're giving away a lot of stuff. If you win, you can give $5,000 to your local game store. I don't know. It's going to be a fun event. I think it will be a fun event. But again, like, no pressure. The team wanted one last sort of social media push to remind people, if they're interested, that your deadline is September 1st to get your tickets, and then they'll start gearing up, or we will start gearing up for next year's event, because we're already starting to plan that. I say we because, you know, they can't get enough of my help, and so I'm probably going to be on the team, which means, again, I won't be able to compete, which honestly tears me up inside. But maybe I'll get the ring winners to face off in their game of choice and see if I could beat them. And I know I can, but that would be fun. That would be fun. Maybe I can arrange that later on to defend their title. Because I'm ineligible, because obviously I'm behind the scenes and, you know, they want everything to be above board. Anyway, if you're interested in that and you're around Vegas or you want to go, check it out. Also, in other, you know, room and board related news, the next Monday's crowdfunding countdown might happen on the Tuesday. I'm closing the show next week that I'm doing in Southampton, so my schedule might be a little bit more up in the air, and I've got some other stuff that I want to accomplish before I leave Southampton. So don't be scared and frightened. If you don't see me next Monday, it'll be me feverishly researching and filming and editing so that it can be out on Tuesday. Or that might not happen. It might pop up on Monday if I somehow carve out the time, but I doubt it. I'm going to really try to play more games with my cast. And in any case, thank you so much for being here. My name's Chris George. I do not have a catchphrase, but look out for the meeple. I do this for the little meeple. That's pretty good. Okay, see you in the next one.